All right, I have to be completely honest with you. When I opened the research packet for this week's deep dive, I I honestly thought there was a mistake.
You thought I sent the wrong file.
Yeah, I thought somebody attached a physics textbook by accident. Because I'm slipping through the pages, we're looking at chapters M through P of The Architect of Life, and it's not text. I mean, there are words, but it's mostly
A
equations.
bit of a shock to the system.
A huge shock. I'm seeing brackets, division signs, variables, asterisks. My bullshit detector went off immediately. It just felt so cold.
Right.
Because we talk about some deep, incredibly human stuff on this show, philosophy, psychology, human nature. But this just looks like homework.
It does.
And I was thinking, is the goal here really to turn the entire human experience into a spreadsheet? Because if so, I might just check out early. I don't want to solve for X to figure out my own consciousness, you know?
No, of course not. And it does look incredibly aggressive on the page, doesn't it? It is stark. But I
Uh,
really want you to pause that reaction for a second because that resistance you're feeling.
the math trauma.
Yes, exactly. The math trauma. That flashback to 11th grade algebra where you're just sweating through your shirt trying to figure out a quadratic equation, that trauma is actually part of the problem.
Okay, how so?
Because we are conditioned to think of math as a test we have to pass
Hmm.
or a calculation we have to get right. But that is not what this is. We aren't doing arithmetic.
It sure looks like arithmetic. I
Oh.
mean, I see an equal sign on page 4. That implies there's a right answer and a wrong answer.
In arithmetic, yes. 2 plus 2 must equal 4. But this isn't arithmetic. We aren't balancing a checkbook here. We aren't calculating the tip on a dinner bill. This is, to use the author's specific term, metamatics.
Metamatics.
Right. It's pseudo-algebraic concept mapping.
Okay, stop. Pseudo-algebraic concept mapping. That sounds like absolute academic word salad.
It does sound dense.
It sounds like something a management consultant charges you 50 grand to explain on a whiteboard. What are we actually talking about here?
Fair enough. Think of it as source code.
Source code, like for software.
Exactly. You know how you look at a computer screen and you see icons, windows, a cursor? That is the user interface. It's designed to be easy, intuitive, and vague. You click a little folder icon and a window opens.
Right. I don't know how it opens. It just opens.
You don't need to know. Most of us live our entire lives at that user interface level. We see an event, say, we get fired from a job, and we just react. We feel bad. We click the sadness icon.
Yeah, I'm the user. I'm trying to get the machine to work without crashing.
It's messy, right? The user experience is incredibly messy. But the architect, the person who actually built the software, they don't look at the icons. They look at the code. They look at the syntax.
Okay, follow that.
They know that if you change a single bracket in the command line, the entire interface changes. That is what this notation is doing. It's stripping away the messy, vague English language and forcing us to look at the structural relationships that govern our reality.
So you're saying English isn't good enough. Language is failing us here.
English is terrible for precision when it comes to human behavior. Think about it. If I say to you, I'm working hard, what does that actually mean?
It means you're putting in hours.
But am I efficient? Am I stressed out of my mind? Am I just doing busy work to look busy? Am I grinding my gears and getting nowhere? Hard work is a completely subjective emotional bucket.
Right. Everyone's definition is different.
Exactly. But if I express my work as a mathematical function, say force times distance divided by time, suddenly I have to be specific. The math forces you to name the invisible forces, the operators that are actually running the show.
I get the appeal of precision. I really do. But I'm still super skeptical about reducing human emotion to variables. It feels reductive.
Yeah.
But I promised you and everyone listening that I would take the dive today. So let's look at the code.
Let's do it.
The first big concept in the source material is the operator of division, the forward slash. All right. Now, in my head, division is reduction. It's taking a pie and cutting it into smaller slices.
Yeah.
If I divide myself, I am literally less than I was before.
Yeah.
But the book seems to take a totally different angle on this.
A completely different angle. In metamatics, the forward slash the division sign does not mean divided into pieces. You read it aloud as filtered by or shaped by.
Filtered by, okay.
It represents the fundamental relationship between content and context. The formula they give is A forward slash B. You read that as identity filtered by environment.
Okay, identity filtered by environment. So A is me and B is where I am.
Yes. A is the iterator. That's the energy, the raw material, the person. B is the delineator, the structure, the constraint. And this actually brings us to the identity divided by one fallacy, which is probably the most common mistake people make in self-analysis.
Identity divided by one.
Yeah.
Meaning what? I think I exist in a vacuum?
We all do it. We say, I'm a successful person, or I am an angry person. We treat ourselves as an integer, a whole number standing completely alone, I equals me. But you are never just me. You are always me divided by situation. You are a variable that only has a value when it interacts with the denominator.
Wait a second, though. Isn't that just a fancy way of passing the buck?
How do you mean?
Well, if I'm a complete jerk in a meeting, isn't that on me? If I turn around and say, oh, well, it was just the denominator, that sounds like I'm dodging responsibility for my own bad behavior.
That was a really fair pushback, but let's look at the New York versus Tokyo analogy from the source material. It addresses exactly that concern. Let's take a specific person. Let's just call him John.
Okay, John.
John has a specific numerator, his internal energy. He is loud, he's expressive, high volume, highly direct. That is his signal.
Okay, so John is a classic type aloud talker.
Exactly. Now let's run John through a specific filter. Let's divide him by New York City. The equation is John divided by NYC. What is the result of that equation?
In New York, he's probably a CEO. He's super effective. He fits right in. You wouldn't even notice him on the street there.
Right. The result is competent citizen, maybe even charismatic leader. Now take the exact same numerator, John, doing the exact same behaviors, and divide him by Tokyo. John divided by Tokyo. What is the result now?
Oh, he's a disaster. He's incredibly rude. He's the ugly American. People are literally moving away from him on the subway.
He is a massive problem. But here is the crux of the mathematical argument. Did John change?
No. John is just being John.
The numerator remained entirely constant. The denominator changed. And because the denominator changed, the value of the equation flipped from positive to negative. Now, if John is stuck in the identity divided by one fallacy, what does he think is happening when he's in Tokyo?
He probably thinks, man, I'm failing. I'm a bad person. Why doesn't anyone like me? He blames the numerator.
Yes. He goes to therapy to fix his personality. He tries to shrink himself. He creates massive internal conflict when in reality, he is simply suffering from a denominator error. He's running the right code in the wrong operating system.
Okay, but to go back to my earlier point, he is failing in Tokyo. The math acknowledges that the result is bad, right?
Yes, the output is undeniably negative. The math does not let him off the hook for the result. It just clarifies the cause. If John wants a positive result in Tokyo, he has two mathematical options.
Change the top or change the bottom?
Precisely. Option 1, change the numerator. Become quiet, learn the customs. Option 2, change the denominator. Leave Tokyo.
Or find a specific neighborhood in Tokyo like Roppongi on a Saturday night where the denominator changes again and loud Americans are expected.
Exactly. That is thinking like an architect. You don't just quote-unquote try harder. You manipulate the variables. You ask, where does my numerator equate to the highest possible value? The source uses the analogy of the river and the riverbank.
I like that part.
The river is the energy. The numerator, the riverbank is the constraint, the denominator.
And we usually hate constraints. We all want to be totally free.
But a river without a riverbank isn't a river at all. It's a swamp. It's a flood. It has absolutely no direction and no velocity. The constraint is what gives the energy its power. You need the division. You need the filter. You just need to ensure it's the correct filter.
You know, that actually shifts my perspective on deadlines or rules.
Oh, so.
I usually see deadlines as things getting in my way, stressors.
Yeah.
But mathematically, they're the denominators that give my work velocity.
Energy divided by constraint equals velocity. If constraint is 0, velocity is undefined. You're just a puddle of potential.
Right, I'll buy the slash. I'm sold on division. It's not cutting me up, it's directing my flow. Let's look at the next operator, the minus sign, subtraction.
The operator of purification.
See, I have a problem with this one too. Culturally, subtraction is failure. If I'm subtracting, I'm losing. I want more. More money, more friends, more skills, more apps on my phone. Less just sounds like I'm broke.
That is the default consumer setting. We are hoarders of variables. We think success equals A plus B plus C plus D plus E.
Right.
But the source material argues that subtraction is actually the most powerful and aggressive operator in the entire toolkit. It reframes subtraction not as loss, but as active purification.
Active purification, like distilling water.
Or sculpting. Think of the classic Michelangelo metaphor. He stands before a massive block of marble to create David. Does he add anything to the block?
No. He takes a hammer and chisel and removes everything that isn't David.
The statue is revealed by what is removed. The David was already there. It was just obscured by the noise.
Yeah.
In our lives, we constantly try to add peace or add focus.
Oh, man, yeah. We download a meditation app. That's addition.
We buy a new daily planner. Addition.
We take a supplement. Addition.
Well, we haven't subtracted the chaos. We're just piling healthy habits on top of a highly toxic lifestyle.
So we're putting whipped cream on a pile of manure.
That's a vivid way to put it, but yes, mathematically you are adding variables to an already cluttered equation, which just increases the cognitive complexity. Mathematic subtraction is about creating a sterile field.
But how do you actually do that? Because I can say, I'm going to subtract my anxiety, but that doesn't mean it magically goes away. In fact, if I try to subtract it, I usually just end up focusing on it more.
And that brings us to the difference between suppression and subtraction. This is a vital distinction in the text. Suppression is the white elephant problem.
Don't think about the white elephant.
And suddenly, the elephant is the only thing in the room. That is suppression. You are staring at the variable and trying to force it to equal 0 through sheer willpower. You are actually adding effort to the problem. Problem plus effort. The variable is still right there.
So what is true subtraction then?
True subtraction is structural. It is the physical or temporal creation of a bounded zone where that variable is rigorously excluded. The formula given in the book is creativity minus judgment.
Okay, creativity minus judgment.
This does not mean I promise not to judge myself while I paint. It means I am entering a specific time block, say from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., where the variable quality is mathematically banned. It simply does not exist in the syntax of that hour.
So it's like physically removing the delete key from your keyboard.
Metaphorically, yes, or literally. You create a clean room. In manufacturing, a clean room isn't a room where everyone just tries really hard to ignore the dust.
Right, that would never work.
It's a room where dust is physically prevented from entering. You scrub in, you wear a protective suit. When you practice mathematic subtraction, you are building an architectural wall around your activity to keep the judgment variable completely outside.
That feels entirely different. It's not about willpower at all. It's about architecture.
It's lazy in the best possible way. Willpower is an additive resource. You have to burn fuel to use it. Subtraction removes the need for fuel entirely. You don't have to resist the distraction if the distraction isn't in the room.
So if I want to lose weight, I don't try not to eat the cookies, which is suppression. I subtract the cookies from the house, which is subtraction.
The variable cookies cannot be divided if it is not in the equation.
Simple. Brutal, but simple. All right, let's move to the operators that usually confuse me because they seem so similar. Addition and multiplication. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Why do we need both in this framework?
In small numbers, they look exactly the same. But in life, the difference between them is catastrophic. The text defines addition as integration. It means both are needed, but they remain distinct.
Like socks and shoes.
Sure, you wear them both, they work together. But the sock doesn't become the shoe, they are simply adjacent to each other. Another example is knowledge plus wisdom.
Okay, elaborate on that.
You can have a library of facts, which is knowledge, and you can have life experience, which is wisdom. They sit side by side in your mental backpack. That is an additive relationship.
Okay, and multiplication.
Multiplication is synergistic amplification. It is a chemical reaction. When you multiply two variables, they fuse. They fundamentally change each other. The output creates a new geometry, what the book calls the spiral.
The spiral of becoming.
Right, it's exponential progress. But, and here's the massive warning label on the bottle, multiplication comes with the zero danger.
I highlighted this part. It actually scared me a little bit.
It should scare you. In an addition equation, a zero is annoying, but it's survivable. If your life equation is career plus hobbies, and you currently have 0 hobbies, well, at least you still have a career. 100 plus 0 is 100. You are still standing.
I'm boring, but I'm solvent.
Exactly. But what if the equation is multiplicative? What if the variables are linked by an asterisk? Trust times intimacy, or strategy times execution.
If one of those is 0.
The total outcome is 0. 100 times 0 is 0. It does not matter if your trust level is at a 100 total sainthood. If intimacy is 0, the relationship value is 0.
That is so unforgiving.
It is absolute mathematical law. You cannot fake your way through a multiplication equation. This perfectly explains why so many businesses fail despite having what they call a great product.
Because they think it's product plus marketing.
Yes. But the market thinks product times experience. You can have the best smartphone in the world, a perfect 100. But if your customer support is non-existent, a 0, the actual value to the customer is 0.
This implies that in certain areas of our lives, we literally cannot afford to have a blind spot. We cannot afford a 0.
Correct. You don't need to be a 10 in everything, but you absolutely must be at least a 1 in everything that is multiplicative, because a 1 times 100 is still 100. A 0 times 100 is nothing.
So if I feel like I'm working incredibly hard but getting absolutely nowhere, like I'm just spinning my wheels, I should be looking for the 0.
Always look for the 0. You are most likely pouring all your energy into the 100 variable, working harder and harder on the thing you're already good at, while the 0 variable is quietly nullifying everything you do.
That is a massive check your ego moment, because the 0 is usually the thing we hate doing.
Which is exactly why it's a 0.
Ouch. Okay, point taken. Let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about grammar. And not English grammar, but the syntax of consciousness. The text spends a lot of time on nesting. Parentheses, brackets, curly braces.
The order of operations.
Right. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We learned that in grade school. Parentheses first, then exponents multiplication.
We learn it by rote, but we rarely apply the concept to meaning. In mathematics, the parentheses tell you what belongs together. They determine the actual sequence of synthesis.
Give me an example of a syntax error in real life.
Let's look at the formula for competence that's provided in Chapter N. Open parenthesis, skill plus knowledge, close parenthesis, divided by opportunity.
Okay, so skill and knowledge are bundled inside the parentheses.
They must be synthesized first. You have to combine your book learning the knowledge with your actual practice, the skill inside that bubble of the parentheses, to create a single unit called competence. Then, and only then, do you divide that unit by opportunity.
Meaning you get good first in private, then you apply it to the job market.
Right. Now imagine you remove the parentheses. You break the syntax. The equation becomes skill plus knowledge divided by opportunity. Now, in standard math, division happens before addition.
So now I'm dividing knowledge by opportunity first.
Exactly. You are taking raw theory and throwing it directly at a problem and then trying to add skill later. This mathematically describes the person who reads a manual and immediately thinks they can fly the helicopter.
Oh man, we all know that guy.
They haven't bundled the skill yet. They are crashing because their order of operations is fundamentally wrong.
That makes total sense. It's about timing and sequencing. But what about the square brackets? The source calls this the spacesuit.
This is honestly one of the most practical tools for mental health in the entire book. The square brackets are used to separate the person from the persona.
Person versus persona.
Okay.
Feel like we're told constantly to be authentic, your whole self to work.
And that is deeply dangerous advice if you work in a toxic environment.
Huh. Fair point.
Think of the persona as a spacesuit. You build it deliberately. It's a construct. It's professional, it's polite, it's thick-skinned. You wear it to survive in a vacuum or a high-pressure zone.
Like a tough negotiation. Or a courtroom.
Or a Thanksgiving dinner with highly difficult relatives. The formula is open, square bracket, person, close, square bracket. The soft, squishy, vulnerable soul is safely tucked inside the brackets.
So the brackets take the hit.
The brackets take all the heat. When someone attacks you in a hostile meeting, they're attacking the brackets, they're attacking the role of project manager. If you don't have the brackets, if you are naked, that attack hits your soul, you get depressurized.
So using the brackets isn't about being fake.
No, not at all. It is being architected. It is safety. But there are two major dangers here. Danger one, you forget the suit, you walk into a fire without your protection.
And you get burned.
Danger two is much more subtle and much more common. You forget the person. You wear the suit for so long, the CEO suit, the tough guy suit, the cool mom suit, that you actually forget there is anyone inside. You merge with the brackets.
Oh, wow.
The equation just becomes open bracket, blank space, close bracket, an empty set.
That's that hollow feeling.
Yeah.
When you get home and you take off the suit and you just don't know who you are anymore.
Precisely. The architect wears the suit, but they always know they're wearing it. They can actively step out of the brackets when they get home to their family.
And that transition, stepping out of the brackets, leads us perfectly to the curly braces. The system level.
Modularity. This is how you prevent contagion.
Contagion, like a virus.
Like an emotional virus. We have a massive tendency to let variables leak across our lives. If I have a terrible day at work, my career system is returning a severe negative value. I tend to bring that negative value home. I snap at my spouse. I kick the dog. I eat junk food.
We've all been there. My whole life is a mess.
But your whole life isn't a mess. Your career module is a mess. Your marriage module might be perfectly fine. Your health module might be stable. But because you lack the curly braces, the structural walls between the systems, the failure leaks into everything.
So the curly braces are bulkheads, like on a submarine.
Yes, if the career compartment floods, you close the brace. End code. The water stops right there. It does not flood the family compartment.
That requires a tremendous amount of discipline to mentally say end bracket when I walk out of the office door.
It does take discipline, but the alternative is sinking your entire ship every time a single pipe bursts. It's about containing the damage to the specific variable that caused it.
Right, so we've built the structure, we've got our filters, our suits, our bulkheads. Now we need to actually power the machine. This brings us to silhouette allocation. And this is where I feel like the text gets highly confrontational with modern hustle culture.
It directly confronts the 110% lie.
Yeah, we love that phrase. I gave 110%. Coaches say it, bosses demand it.
And mathematically, it is complete nonsense. You have exactly 100 units of capacity. Mental, physical, emotional. The total is 100. It is a closed thermodynamic system.
But I feel like I can give 110%. I can pull an all-nighter. I can push way past my limits.
You can output 110 units of work, yes, but where did the extra 10 units come from?
Adrenaline, coffee, sheer willpower.
You borrowed them. You didn't generate them out of nothing. You stole them. You stole them from your recovery account. You stole them from your immune system account. You stole them from your patience with your kids account.
It's a debt.
It is high-interest debt, and the universe is a incredibly ruthless debt collector. That is what burnout actually is. Burnout is the biological bank foreclosing on your energy because you kept writing checks for 110 when you only had 100 deposited.
But hold on. I hear what you're saying. But tell that to a single mom working 2 jobs to make rent, or a startup founder trying to get a Series A so they don't have to fire their whole team. Saying I only have 100 units sounds like a luxury. Sometimes reality demands 110%. We don't always have a choice.
That is a very harsh reality. And you are right. Sometimes the external demand is 110, but the math does not care about the moral necessity of the situation. The math only cares about the accounting. If you spend 110, you will pay it back. You might pay it back in a severe illness. You might pay it back in a mental breakdown. You might pay it back in a divorce. The system always balances itself eventually.
So if we absolutely can't create more energy, what do we do? Because I can't just tell my boss, hey, I'm at my 100 units, see you later.
The solution isn't to try to be perfectly balanced every single day. Work-life balance is a static concept. It implies you give 33% to work, 33% to family, 33% to sleep, every single day forever. That's stagnation. The solution in the text is the burst transformer.
Burst transformer. Sounds like a sci-fi weapon. How does it work?
It's about dynamic allocation. It uses the concept of seasons. The text describes a traveler who allocates heavily to one bracket for a set period. Say, for 8 weeks, your allocation to the creation module is 80 units.
That's massive. That leaves only 20 units for literally everything else in your life.
Right. So during those 8 weeks, your social variable goes to 0. Leisure goes to 0. Maintenance, cleaning the house, doing laundry drops to the absolute bare minimum survival level. You look incredibly unbalanced to the outside world. You are unbalanced.
But you get the project done. You ship the code.
You break through. You generate massive, undeniable output. But, and this is the crucial key, you treat it as a cycle. At the end of those 8 weeks, you shift the silhouette. You transform.
You flip the switch.
Creation drops from 80 down to 10. Recovery spikes to 50. Social goes up to 40. You hibernate. You reconnect with your friends. You heal your body.
So it's basically interval training for life. Sprint, recover. Sprint, recover.
Exactly. Nature already does this perfectly. Trees don't try to bloom and grow roots and shed leaves all at the exact same time. They have seasons. We try to do everything at once, and we end up doing nothing well. We dilute our 100 units into 100 tiny 1-unit buckets.
Harmony is dynamic. I really like that phrasing. It actually gives me permission to be completely obsessed with something for a while, as long as I promise myself to rest later.
Just don't default on the rest. That is where people crash. They do the sprint, but they skip the recovery phase because they get addicted to the output.
All right, we are in the final section here. We've debugged the self. Now let's plug the self into a network. T-math, the alignment factor.
This is where metamatics gets truly exponential. This explains why corporate dream teams fail miserably and why ragtag groups of underdogs sometimes win championships.
So it's not just about raw talent.
Talent is just capacity. Let's call it variable C. But the actual output of a group is determined by the alignment factor. The formula is alignment factor equals 1 divided by, open parenthesis, 1 plus conflict score, close parenthesis.
Okay, let's run the numbers on that. Make it real for me.
Imagine two teams, Team A and Team B. Both have a total talent capacity of 10. They are absolute geniuses.
On paper, they should both crush it equally.
Now look at Team A. They are completely aligned. They trust each other. They don't have ego battles. Their conflict score is 0.
Good.
So the alignment factor is 1 divided by 1 plus 0, which is just 1. The output formula is capacity to the power of alignment. So 10 to the power of 1 equals 10.
They get the full 100% value of their talent.
Now look at Team B. Same exact talent level of 10. But they hate each other. There's constant gossip. There are passive-aggressive email chains copying the boss. People are deliberately withholding information.
A toxic workplace.
Exactly. The conflict score is high. Let's say it's a 3. So the alignment factor is 1 divided by 1 plus 3. That's 1/4, or 0.25.
So they are operating at 25% alignment.
Now apply the exponent.
Yeah.
10 to the power of 0.25. Do you know what that actually equals?
I cannot do fractional exponents in my head, but I know it's going to be low.
It's approximately 1.78.
Whoa. Wait, stop. TA is producing a 10. Team B, with the exact same smart people, is producing a 1.7.
Yes. They are losing over 80% of their energy to heat loss. Friction, politics, defensive posturing.
That explains so much. I've worked in that office. You spend all day writing emails just to cover your ass, and you have absolutely no time left to actually do the work.
That is the conflict score literally eating the capacity. And here's the profound Moneyball insight of this chapter. Most companies try to fix this by hiring better people. They think, we need to get our capacity from a 10 to a 12.
They spend millions on recruiting a rock star.
But if you put a capacity 12 person into that exact same conflict system of 0.25, the output is 12 to the power of 0.25. That's only 1.86.
You spent millions of dollars to move your output from 1.78 to 1.86. You bought a Ferrari and drove it directly into a swamp.
But if you kept the original team, the capacity 10 name, and simply worked on the culture, if you reduced the conflict score from 3 to just 1, your alignment factor jumps to 0.5. 10 to the power of 0.5 is roughly 3.16. You just doubled your output without hiring a single new person.
That is the ultimate mathematical argument for soft skills. Empathy, clear communication, trust. They aren't HR fluff. They are the literal exponent.
They are the multiplier. Without them, talent is just potential energy that never ever turns into kinetic energy.
Man, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've gone from math trauma to math enlightenment. We've got the filter, the forward/checking your context. We've got the purification, the minus sign removing the marble to find the David, the synergy, the asterisk avoiding the danger of multiplying by 0,
Yes.
the spacesuit, the brackets protecting the person from the persona, the energy cap stopping the theft from tomorrow, and finally, the alignment factor, fixing the friction to unlock the exponent.
You've built the dashboard.
I really feel like I have a language now. Instead of just vaguely feeling bad, I can look at the board and say, oh, that's a bracket error. Or I'm currently in a multiplication equation with a 0.
That is the entire goal of the architect of life, to move you from vague feelings to precise architecture.
But, and I really hate to be the one to drop a bomb right at the end of this deep dive, but the source material leaves us with a massive cliffhanger. A really unsettling provocation right at the end of Chapter P.
The hard problem.
Yeah. We spent an hour talking about the code, the software, the interface. But if my mind is the software and my life is the simulation,
Who is the programmer?
or even spookier, who is the user, who is the one actually watching the screen?
We have debugged the operating system. We've optimized the code. But Metamatics hits a profound wall right here. We can map the brain. We can mathematically map the behavior. But we cannot find the I. We cannot find the observer.
The thing that is aware that is doing the math.
Exactly. Is the observer part of the equation, or is the observer the paper the equation is written on?
So we built the perfect spacesuit, we survived the vacuum, but we still fundamentally don't know who is inside it.
And perhaps that is the only variable that is truly infinite, the undefined variable, X.
Well, I'm going to need to sit in a dark, quiet room and process that for a while. Maybe do some intense subtraction.
Just remember to check your denominators.
I definitely will. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Hopefully for everyone listening, your internal math is a little cleaner than it was an hour ago. And I hope you take that final thought and explore it on your own.
See you in the next bracket.
Signing off.